All rise. Oh yes, oh yes, oh yes. This Washington County Board of County Commissioners is now in session pursuant to adjournment. Honorable Chairman Kathy Story preside, remain standing and come to order.
Thank you, Sheriff. I'm Kathy Story, Washington County Clerk, and I will be presiding over the first part of the meeting while the Board of Commissioners elects their chairman and vice chairman. The prayer tonight will be led by Commissioner Carragher and the pledge by Commissioner Ford.
Let's all bow our heads. Heavenly Father, we come to you now with humble hearts. We ask that you strengthen us, provide us comfort as we make decisions that affect the people of Washington County. Thank you for the many blessings you have given us in Washington County. Thank you for your love. Thank you for your Son, Jesus Christ, died on the cross for our sins. Humbly come to you and ask that you grant us wisdom and courage to do the right thing tonight. Amen.
Let's honor America.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, the next order of business will be our roll call. If you will make your presence known by pressing the button on the screen. Looks like there's 14 present. We have a quorum. And at this time, I'm going to move item 10A, nomination of election of chairman and vice chairman to the present. Okay, I'll now take nominations for chairman.
Madam Chairman, I'd like to nominate Greg Matherly as chairman.
Okay, Greg Matherly. Other nominations?
I move nomination cease.
Okay. Nominations have ceased. All those in favor? Do we need to take a roll call? Okay. All those in favor of chairman? All those opposed? Okay. Newly elected Chairman Matherly, I'm going to turn the meeting over to you.
Thank you all. I appreciate the opportunity to be able to serve another year as chairman and to work for you each day and prepare things as they come. And thank you all for your confidence in me. Our next item will open the floor for nominations for vice chairman. Commissioner Tester. Okay. All right. Any further nominations? Commissioner Ford? Thank you, Commissioner. Do you have a second? Second by Commissioner Carriger. All those in favor of that motion signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, like sign. The motion passes. Congratulations, Commissioner Wheeler. All right, we have considered one item on the agenda already. There is a few items that we may want to take a look at before we move any further. The first item that is on the agenda but needs to be on the public comment is a notice of public hearing that goes with the item under public safety. It already appears on the agenda. It just needs to probably have something so noted there that saying this item is in need of public hearing, and it has been properly advertised as a public hearing. Also, under the Rules Committee report, the item that we probably need to, it has been requested to go, just be withdrawn back to the committee until next month. And that was Resolution 190901. And it's been requested to go back. Commissioner Tester?
Clarification. The committee's finished, it just needs to be postponed to next month's commission meeting because the final contract didn't get in the package.
So you don't need to see it anymore, just defer?
Yeah.
Just defer it? Okay. Just defer that to next month's meeting. All right, anything else, any changes, questions? We have a motion to approve the agenda as amended. Motion made by Commissioner Tester, seconded by Commissioner Davenport to approve the agenda as amended. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, like sign. The motion passes. All right, next item is the public comment time. Each person that would like to speak that has already signed up previously to speak for 3 minutes. When you come forward to the podium, if you'll give your name and address to the clerk, please. And you'll have 3 minutes. If you're here, well, we don't have any rezoning on the agenda tonight, so that'll be good. All right. Our first person to speak tonight is Kayla Momberger. Kayla, if you'll come forward to the podium, please.
My name is Kayla Momberger. I live at 120 Mountain Ridges Drive in Jonesboro.
All right, Kayla, you go ahead.
About 12 years ago, I was in college and found myself to be a leader of a student activist group for a certain presidential candidate and a certain presidential party. And through that process, was able to attend the presidential candidate convention with college students. And it was 2 specific candidates that went out of their way at that convention to make me feel, as just a little college student in Northeast Tennessee, that I was important and that I had a right to be there and a right to be involved and a right to be heard. It was that experience that kept me involved in politics, but it wasn't until I moved out to Jonesboro from Johnson City, had kids that later started attending Jonesboro Elementary, that I realized how important it is to be involved locally and not just on a national level. And it was that experience and that desire to be involved that has brought me and almost, I would say, everyone here tonight. And I hope that we're here for a common goal and for a common reason, and that is for the concern of our children and for our neighbors and our communities. So through this process, I would like to thank the town of Jonesboro, for the mayor and the aldermen, all involved, for their creativity, their concern, and the most personal communication I've ever received from any group of politicians, and their efforts towards the new Jonesboro School. I would like to thank them for their vote yes to move it forward. I would like to thank the school board members for their vote yes to move it forward. I would like to thank the budget committee for their vote yes to move it forward. And I would like to thank you commissioners and everyone here in the audience for being here tonight. And I hope that as a parent of 2 Jonesboro Elementary School children and 1 future Jonesboro Elementary child, that we can all come together and vote yes one final time to move forward on this Jonesboro Elementary School and middle school and give our children the environment that they deserve to learn, to progress, and to move forward, and one day be involved in these efforts themselves. Thank you.
Thank you, Kayla. All right, our next speaker is Carrie Estrop. Carrie, if you'll come to the podium and give your address to the clerk, please. Can have it, we may have it on file. No.
Carrie A. Strout, 21 Mockingbird Court. We've came a long way. I've had several speeches to you all, to our school board. I don't think that anyone ever realized when they answered a Carrie A. Strout email or a Carrie A. Strout phone call that meant we were going to be lifelong email buddies and phone call buddies, because everyone here knows this project is my passion. It's been my heart for a very long time. We went from schemes to magnet schools to we're not getting anything till now we have an amazing plan. I want to thank the town of Jonesboro for coming up with the creativity. I definitely want to thank the school board for actually having a unanimous vote. This has been the first time that I've seen every single committee and every single government body actually have a unanimous vote. I know there's some challenges ahead, and you all did get my email. Most of you responded back, so I do appreciate it. But I just want to say thank you for actually looking into this and working with the town of Jonesboro and the school board to help get our kids a safe environment. So I just want to say thank you, and I hope we get a yes vote from you all tonight. That way our kids can have it. So thank you.
Thank you, Carrie. Right, our next speaker is Jamie Freeman. Jamie, if you'll come to the podium and give your address to the clerk, please.
My name is Jamie Freeman. I live at 1389 Highway 107. I'm an employee of Washington County. Therefore, I'm speaking as an individual, a taxpayer. Everybody has a story. Every place has a story, and tonight's story is about Jonesboro students. I think we're all aware of that. It's been an emotional ride from the beginning 3 years ago up till now. Many people in this room have been part of that ride. And on that, coming all these miles, all these hours, all the phone calls and emails, it feels like we're at a place that this story is going to come really to its beginning, a new beginning for Jonesboro students. I'm very thankful for the school board, the aldermen, the commissioners here that have kept the fight alive this whole time. 3 years is a long time to fight for something. And here we are with the opportunity to make this dream come true. Standing out in line about 4:45. Yep, we've been here since 4:45. It's important to us. And I was asked if I had a student at Jonesboro School, and I said no. And the question was asked, so you're just a citizen? No, I'm just a teacher. I'm just a teacher who cares. And if a teacher can't fight for Jonesboro School or a school, who can? So it is very important to me, especially for students involved that this lease get passed. I read the resolution, and I didn't see the lease there. I was at the meeting, the budget meeting 2 weeks ago, so hopefully some questions will be answered for me during this meeting in relation to the lease. It was my understanding that the mayor was under some urgency to get it to the lawyers in Knoxville, and I have questions, and as I said, I hope those questions are answered tonight. I appreciate all the commissioners here this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, James. All right, our next speaker is Ian. Is it Allen? Miss Allen? Yes. If you'll just come forward to the podium and give your name and address to the clerk.
My name is Jan Allen, 483 Rock House Road, Jonesboro. I came here just to say thank you and appreciate the vote and the support for this wonderful idea. I'm the art teacher at Jonesboro Elementary, so I'm definitely invested in that, not just in the town of Jonesboro, but those children. I was thrilled to see so many of my students here that could actually watch this process, and how wonderful it is if everyone comes together for their good. Thank you.
Thank you, Miss Allen. All right, our next speaker is Kara Presnell. Kara, if you'll come forward to the podium and give your name and address to the clerk, please.
I'm Kara Presnell. I live at 334 Tavern Hill Road. I've been one of the many parents that have been fighting for a solution for the Jonesboro School for the last 3 years. I've sat through many workshops and meetings with leaving, feeling discouraged and without hope for our Jonesboro kids. With this lease that Mayor Vest and the town of Jonesboro have proposed, the parents, teachers, and Jonesboro, we finally have hope again. I, along with all of the other, I'm asking you to please support this agreement. I realize you're feeling pressure from Johnson City, but there's not a school in Johnson City with asbestos, mold, old water pipes, classrooms without walls, gyms and hallways that smell of sewage, and ceiling tiles that fall during class. It's an unhealthy and unsafe environment for our kids. No child in Washington County should have to spend their first 9 years of development in that environment. I'm asking that you continue this momentum and keep fighting for this project. It will not only benefit the kids of Jonesboro, but it will also increase the growth, the development, and the revenue for Tennessee's oldest town. Thank you.
Thank you, Kara. All right, our next speaker is Dr. John Daniel. John, if you'll come forward to the podium and give your name and address to the clerk.
John Daniel, 295 Douglas Shed Road, Prairie, Tennessee. In 2014, the commission and the public were kind of misled with the medical examiner contract. The Tennessee legislative lawyers have come back and said that the accreditation cannot happen because it violates state statute and your authority to make it an ME. The NAMES accreditation also says on page 5 that they cannot circumvent state statute. So that part of the accreditation would not stand. Now I'm being told that there is a cost increase that's going to happen with our level 1 trauma center being here at the medical center. I spoke to Dr. Hudson, who's been at 30 years at Sullivan County, and he has a level 1 trauma center, a level 2 trauma center, and a tertiary medical center that he's overseeing as medical examiner in Sullivan County. His autopsy rate is the lowest of ours. He also told me that we cannot go across county lines, much less state lines, even if this stuff is flown in. So, because we would not have jurisdiction to investigate that death. So that would be up to the entity where that body came from. So I just wanted to come tonight and clarify that. I've been asked by several folks to discuss that part. There is no need for the Washington County taxpayer to take on that responsibility. So I just wanted to bring that to your all's attention. Thank you.
Thank you, John. All right, before we go back into regular session, let's go ahead and address this, the JAG grant. That is the Justice Assistance Grant application that we need to hold a quick public hearing on. Is there anyone here to speak in favor or opposition to this grant for the county's application? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing on the JAG grant and the overall public hearing, and we'll go back into regular session. Next item is the minutes of the planning minutes of September 3rd of Washington County. Regional Planning Office is in your packet. Is there any questions, comments? Seeing none. We do have a couple of resolutions tonight, an informational session as well. We have a very special guest with us tonight. Taylor Campbell is here. Taylor, if you'll come on up to the podium, please. We have a very special proclamation for Taylor. Not every day do we have the, as it was known to me, our Future Farmers of America state president, and those you don't see very often. Taylor, we're so glad to have you with us tonight. Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Taylor, welcome. It's exciting to have you back in the county. We've missed you for the last month or so. Welcome back. This is a proclamation in recognition of Taylor Campbell. Whereas Taylor Campbell built quite a reputation during her 4 years at Davy Crockett High School as an FAA member. Taylor, a recent graduate of Davy Crockett High School, was elected as Tennessee FFA State President for the year 2019 and 20. The Tennessee FFA Association has over 14,000 members, and this is the first time in 25 years that a member from East Tennessee has been elected state president. Taylor will lead not only Tennessee FFA Association, but also the 8-member state officer team. And whereas, to be elected as a state officer, Taylor submitted an application, completed 3 days of rigorous interview and team process, and was chosen as a top candidate by a nominating committee. For months, Taylor has spent 3 to 4 hours a day preparing for the election process. And whereas, FFA no longer stands for Future Farmers of America. In 1988, the official name was changed to the National FFA Organization. The National FFA Organization reaches all 50 states and has over 600,000 members, and focuses on premier leadership, personal growth, and career success. Now therefore, be it proclaimed by the Board of County Commissioners of Washington County, Tennessee, that Washington County recognizes and pays tribute to Taylor Campbell on being elected the 2019-20 Tennessee FFA State President. Washington County wishes for safe travel across the state and nation, taking part in innumerable FFA events and speaking to various groups. Congratulations.
Thank-
ahead, you're drawing quite a crowd tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Do we have a motion to approve the proclamation? Motion made by Commissioner Ford, seconded by Commissioner Carriger. All in favor of approving the proclamation signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, like sign. The proclamation passes. Taylor, would you like to say a few words? This is a pretty tough crowd to get a standing ovation out of.
Well, I really appreciate all of the support I've seen here. I'd like to just thank the people that came along with me, my parents, FFA advisors, and some friends from my FFA chapter. So thank you all for being here and for the support that you all have given me moving forward and throughout this year so far. So thank you all, and a special thank you to the County Commission for recognizing the work that I've done so far. Thank you.
Thank you, Taylor. All right, next we'll have a presentation by Dr. Steve Barnett, our Director of the Johnson City Schools. Dr. Barnett, we've been looking forward to hearing your presentation since the U Committee. We're glad to have you.
Thanks. Sure, I've got this. So where am I pointing? Right here. Okay. Well, I'm here just to do something that I probably should do about every 6 months or every year at least, give an update. And the update we have tonight has to do with our upcoming capital needs. It really has to do with how much our average daily attendance has increased. I'm going to give you a packet at the end, and it'll demonstrate our growth as a school system. We've grown quite a bit as a school system, but we have not added any seats, any classroom seats, especially at the elementary. We added 680 students to our K-12 enrollment since 2010, actually 900 since 2007. We currently have very large, as you can see, over 1,300 students in second and third grades. Our current kindergarten first grade enrollment is also 635 and 627. The reason that's important, thought it might be a bubble coming through. It's easier to deal with a bubble as it comes through, but our normal class size has gone from 525, 550 up to about 625, 650. So that seems to be our new normal. Our English language learners, we welcome students from all over the world, as you can see. They make up 7% of our overall student enrollment at 553 students. That's a decent size, a good size elementary school made up with our English language learners, speaking 58 different languages in all of our schools. Well, that also takes up space. Response to intervention, which we have, and ESL, which we have in both of our systems in this county, take up, those programs take space, so it lessens the number of classes that you can have in a building. So I'm sure Washington County school systems seeing the same kind of situation with the RTI. With Indian Trail Intermediate School already at capacity, we need to make space for our students as they come through. It's going to be critical at year 2022-23. So we have a school building built for about 1,200. We're at capacity now. We're just simply not going to have space for our students at Indian Trail and Liberty Bell. When you look at Liberty Bell, it looks like a really large facility. It is, but a lot of that is because of the configuration with the 3 separate buildings connected by corridors. So those corridor spaces are really just space for students to walk from one building to another. You really can't use that space for classroom space. 2 middle schools. We started talking about and planning for that over 2 years ago. It's not something new, but we are very methodical about the way we plan. We'll make sure we bring both commissions information that is correct and updated. And we contracted with Weems Architects to complete the feasibility study with the intention of doing 2 5/8s. And our school system continued to grow. When in 2016, we actually had a decrease in enrollment, and we thought that might be, like most school systems in East Tennessee, especially Northeast Tennessee, would be a trend downward and would allow us to have 2 5/8 middles. But that has not happened. We've had an increase, so the recommendation from Weems and from our own central office staff, by looking at our attendance and our membership in our school, is to go to 2 6/8 middles. The 6/8, the Weems Architects also found some things. We have science labs that need to be brought up to speed at Indian Trail. We currently use our athletic changing facilities for storage and also for some classroom space. That's how much capacity we are at Indian Trail. So to go to 2 6/8 middles, it will really allow us to transition 5th graders back to the elementary school, where I think comfort level for parents is better as well. But it also allows us to have some room to grow at the middle schools, which will also help us as the students' enrollment continues to come through. We'll have space available at Indian Trail for our middle schoolers on the east side of Johnson City and our middle schoolers at Liberty Bell on the west side of Johnson City. Also eliminates one of our transitions, which we think is very key. We have too many transitions right now. We go pre-K4 or K4, then we go to a 5/8, 5/6, and then to a 7/8. It's going to allow our students, when they go into middle school, to be part of a smaller cohort. So you'll go to Indian Trail or Liberty Bell as a 6th grader with another 300 students, stay there for 3 years before moving on to Science Hill. Demographically, these two schools are almost identical, which is key to our school board and our community, that these two schools be demographically very similar, and the programs and the students, what the students receive in each school, be very, very equitable, and we will be able to do that. Also I'm going to give you a folder. It has a copy of our 2 middle school plan. I think you'll find that interesting. The demographics are on some of the back pages, and I think you'll be really surprised when you look at the demographics at how close we are on the east side of town and the west side of town, not just numerically, but also demographically. I think it's a very impressive plan. I think you'll see that and see the equity we can provide for our students. As I said, there's a copy of the current facility needs that will be in your packet. I also want you to know that this is not new. I sent a copy of that to Mayor Grandy back on April 4th, as well as to City Manager Pete Peterson. Presented an update to the U Committee back on June 6th, and the next step was to come to this body, so to make you aware of impending capital needs that we will have in the Johnson City schools. Building new classroom space at Lake Ridge, Southside, Woodland. It'll increase the space in those schools and the number of seats so that we can move our 5th graders back into our elementary schools. Adding storage at Indian Trail so that we can use our changing athletics facilities for what they're intended for, which is for athletics. Get the large equipment off the stage so we can use our little theater for programming in the little theater during the day instead of using the stage for storage. Also doing upgrades to the science classrooms so they are equitable in what we have at Liberty Bell and what we have at Indian Trail. Johnson City Commission and City Manager already have a plan in place to bond all these capital needs in Johnson City. So this is not an ask. That's information items for you. Our current capital need that we're not going to be able to bond in the city is replacement of Town Acres Elementary School with a larger facility, with a larger capacity on that site, with a capacity of 650 K5 or pre-K5 under one roof. The current school, if you haven't been there, the community and the city has done a wonderful job of maintaining that school. It is built in 1966. and has had 3 additions, one in 1974, which is a separate building, and the second in 1991. All 3 separate buildings. That's been a concern for parents for years, is that their students have to go outside, move from one building to another for related arts, and also just to go to lunch and to move about the space. Most of you probably don't realize that. I think the concept of having all the students under one roof at Town Acres is key if we're going to have to add space at that facility. We've already been able to do core drillings at Town Acres, and the facility, the property can be built on. We had that as part of our architect study, looking at that and saying, it's a school, can we build on this space, or we're going to have to look for property somewhere else? So going through, being really methodical, as I said, about how we did it, we went ahead and had the core samples done. They said it can be built upon. Town Acres is a reward school for 6 years. I'm not going to stand here and tell you it's not a great school. It is. It's a place people want to put their children. As I said, our maintenance department in the city have done a wonderful job of keeping it maintained, but it is an old school. It's over 50 years old. And if it were under one roof, I think it would be easy to say, let's build on. Let's renovate and build onto the school. But I think, and we feel, that the best way to go about adding capacity at that property and keep people in that community is to build a new school at that space. That being said, due to our continued enrollment growth, we're probably going to need another elementary school somewhere in Johnson City in the next 6 to 10 years as well. So that is the trend. That's what we think will likely happen on top of these needs. And I thank you. I appreciate your time, and any questions that you may have, I'm glad to answer today. My card will also be in your folder. If you have any questions at all, please call me, and be glad to talk to you. Yes, sir.
Have y'all given any thought to projections on what do you think the growth is going to look like over the coming 10 years?
We think it's going to stay steady. It's been steady at about 75 to 100 students a year. This year, we're up well over, from May until now, we're up over 200. From the beginning of last year till now, we're up over, well over 100 students. Feel like that's going to be our new normal for now, but we're going to keep an eye on that. You know, it could be something that next year that we slow down. But at the current needs, we have students in seats in our elementary schools that we're going to need places for in the upcoming years.
What you said tonight, but I'm kind of interested in knowing what y'all's student-teacher ratio is as compared to ours, because I know very little about the city.
I'm not real sure. I could probably talk to Dr. Flannery about what you all have, but we tend to, in our schools, most of our classrooms are pretty maxed out. You go to Liberty Bell and Indian Trail, you're talking the average, you know, you have to look at average that can be in a grade band, but then also the maximum you can have in a classroom. Most of our classrooms at Liberty Bell are above 30, Indian Trail at 30, elementary schools, Town Acres, anywhere from 20 to 25. We're pretty maxed out at each one. We have very few administrative costs because we just don't have a lot of administrators. We have very few assistant principals in elementary school. We use that as a training ground for hopefully for future principals. And that's a great question. We do try in our highest poverty schools to keep that ratio a little bit lower when we can. We use some of that federal money is used to help drop that ratio. You're welcome.
Dr. Barnett, thank you so much for coming, and I know you have some
I do.
items to give to everyone. And we do appreciate the presentation. If no one had any other questions, I didn't see any other questions.
Any other questions? Thank you so much.
Yeah.
That's right. Thanks, sir.
You're welcome. demographic information added in here. One of the things, the ESL number is based on last year's report card. Try to cite all of that so you have to know where it came from. But we're up about 2%, 7% last year, about 5%.
Yeah. Thank you. I see that you have many of the Johnson City School Board members with you here, and the board chairman, and our city mayor, and our city manager, Mr. Peterson, and we appreciate you all coming down. We sure do. I know we have many of our aldermen here from the town of Jonesboro as well tonight. So thank you, Dr. Barnett, for your presentation. Our next item is receive and consider the minutes from our August 26th regular meeting of the Board of County Commissioners. We have a motion?
So moved.
Motion made to approve, seconded by Commissioner Tester.
Chairman, there was a correction.
Yes, yes. And that was a correction on that I didn't see. Thank you, Commissioner Tester. Under, on the road change name on Brethren Church Valley, Commissioner Davenport, it says abstained on that vote, and that should be Commissioner Matherly that abstained. And Commissioner Matherly abstained as well on the on that final vote. So I will offer those corrections to the minutes. We do have a motion as corrected. Seconded by Commissioner Tester. All those in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. The motion carries and the minutes are accepted. All right, our next item is the election appointments and confirmations. Our first item is the nomination and election of chairman. We've already done that one. Thank you so much, Ms. Story, for handling that, and you do a great job all the time. I couldn't do without you. Our next item is Resolution 190912, is a resolution appointing members to the Washington County Johnson City Emergency Medical Services Board. These names are brought to you by the county mayor, who offers these to the county commission, and our job is just to confirm his appointments.
Move for approval.
Motion made by Commissioner Ford, seconded by Commissioner Davenport to approve the resolution. Discussion? Seeing no discussion, we have a question. Question's been called. Madam Clerk, if you'll switch us to the voting screen. Go ahead and cast your vote and lock it in. Madam Clerk, if you'll announce the vote. 14 yes, 1 absent, resolution passes. Next item is Resolution 19913, is a resolution naming Allison L. Wilkinson as County Attorney for Washington County, Tennessee. Do I have a motion? Motion made by Commissioner McAllister, seconded by Commissioner England to approve the resolution. Commissioner Wheeler?
Mr. Chairman, in the past, looking through some of these resolutions, there's usually been a term with respect to this. I'm very much in favor of this resolution, and I think we are very lucky to have Ms. Wilkinson as our county staff attorney and hopefully soon to be our county attorney. But given that we've had that in the past, I would like to suggest that I realize that we're not talking about her employment, but just the appointment as county attorney, that we add to Section 2 that would be for a term of 1 year, ending September 31st, 2020, and that would allow that to come back to the commission from year to year, or at some point, maybe 2-year terms, but that there be some input from the commission as we go forward to that appointment. So I make that as a motion.
So you're offering that as an amendment to the resolution?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Seconded by Commissioner Ford as an amendment to the resolution. Was that a 1 year?
Yes, sir.
Amendment of 1 year. And that would have to come back to the commission for renewal in 1 year.
Yes, sir.
All right. Any discussion on the amendment? Commissioner Edens?
Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to say also that I do appreciate the job that Ms. Wilkerson does, and she's been invaluable to me over the past few months as far as issues that we've discussed on the Health, Education, and Welfare Committee. But I've sat on this commission for a long time, and it's my personal opinion that we may be better served for a county attorney to work for the commission instead of be directly under our mayor. I think the 1-year term is a good idea moving forward till we can have some further discussion and some thought towards that direction. So I support the amendment.
Thank you, Commissioner Edens. All right. Any further discussion or questions?
Call for question.
Questions been called? Madam Clerk, we will be voting on the amendment. Just on the amendment. If you are in favor of the 1-year term, that's what we are voting on to add in as an amendment. All right? Madam Clerk, if you'll announce the vote, 14 yes, 1 absent, the amendment passes. Now we'll go back and vote on the amendment, the resolution is amended. That will be amending it with the 1-year term. All right, is there any discussion?
Call the question.
Question's been called on the amended resolution. Madam Clerk, if you'll switch us to the voting screen. Remember, we are voting on the amendment, amended resolution. You all have voted before I could get done. All right, Madam Clerk, if you'll announce the vote, 14 yes, 1 absent, the resolution passes as amended. Next item is the county mayor's report. Mayor Grandy. Thank you, Mayor. Next item is the county attorney's report. Ms. Wilkinson, we just got that done, so
Thank you, Mr.
congratulations.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Commissioners. I have no written report, but as always, I'm available if you have any questions. We will have executive session this evening to address litigation matters, and any questions now, I'm happy to answer.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We appreciate you stepping up and taking that role as county attorney, and you are invaluable to all of us, and I appreciate you and so much, and Teresa as well. She does an awesome job, and
It's an honor. It really
it's a
is an honor.
good team effort over there. It's been great. All right, our next report is, I guess we can do. All right, we need to go ahead and move forward in executive session. Commissioner Carriger?
Mr. Chairman, I would respectfully like for us to move on. We've got a lot of folks here that want us to get to a vote, and I think it would be unfair to ask folks that we work for have to wait for us to go into executive session. So I don't know, with the indulgence of you and the other commissioners, I would like to see us move on.
Absolutely. Just we can defer that back on down to the, well, it'd be all right to have a little motion, I guess.
I move that we proceed with our agenda, and that once we finish up with the resolution on the school, that we go into executive session.
All right. All right. We have a motion and second to move that item down to just between the public safety and the HUE committee report. All right. All in favor of that motion, signify by saying aye. Aye. All right. Opposed? Seeing none, that item is moved on down. The next item, our Director of the Health Department, Ms. Minnick is here with us. Kristen, I know you all have been busy.
We have. Came to share some things. I was not here in August because we had a little hepatitis A outbreak and had to open up a point of dispensing clinic in our local health department. I've never been so grateful for construction delays because those actually allowed us to be able to serve 830 clients from the Johnson City, Washington County area. We're able to vaccinate them for either their first or second hepatitis A vaccination in that series related to the outbreak that we had at the McDonald's on West Market Street. That is probably the first of many more of those incidents to come. You're probably aware that there was an outbreak at McAllister's in Sullivan County several months prior to that. And this is the first one that we've had in Washington County. So as we continue to educate people and vaccinate our adult population mostly, because children do receive this as part of their vaccine series before they enter school, we do want to encourage everyone to continue to wash their hands, stay up to date on their vaccinations, and be ready for cold and flu season, which is happening just around the corner. So as we're continuing to work on our health department renovation, I would invite anyone to come by at any time and see what we're doing. Currently, the building is being utilized in very small places downstairs. We're still thriving and doing clinics upstairs as well. So we have not ceased any operations or decreased any of our profiles to see clients, but we are under construction. And that's all I had to share tonight, and we're glad to answer any questions you may have. Yeah.
Are you all doing vaccinations in the schools?
We are. We have planned to do Washington County school vaccinations. It won't be until November. The flu vaccine is very slow in getting to providers this year. There was an issue with the vaccine being able to reproduce in enough quantity to start to send out across the United States. So as we get those vaccines in, we're going to hold those and do the county schools on November the 4th, 5th, and 6th, and then the city schools the following week. I think it's the 14th and 15th. But we do plan to vaccinate again all of the children who are willing to, their parents are willing to allow us to do that. Our goal is always about 10% of the school population that we would be able to come in and vaccinate. We really don't care where people get their vaccination, but if we can help a parent out by coming to the school and doing that, then that's something that we like to be able to do. We will be offering free flu vaccines on November the 19th from 1 o'clock to 4 o'clock at Wesley United Methodist Church. I know that seems a little bit late, but sometimes we need to catch people up at that point in time and make sure that as we head into the winter months that everybody's vaccinated. Yes.
When is your expected completion date of construction?
That's a great question.
I bet you're looking forward.
We are looking forward to it. It will most likely be mid-March when we'll have the 3 phases downstairs completed. We're on schedule, which is always something that's very nice to hear in a construction project. No major scary things have been found yet, but we're just in the first of 3 phases of this first construction project on the first floor. Any other questions? Thank you all.
Thank you, Chris. All right, next item is the Director of Schools report. Dr. Flannery.
Thank you, Chairman. I didn't have a written report, so Commissioner Ford asked a question that deserves an answer. In our early grades, kindergarten, first and second grade, we are very intentional about keeping those numbers very low. When I checked last week, our largest class at that level had 21 students in it. That's well below the state maximum. As you get into the middle grades, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, our class sizes tend to creep up. We have a few at 31 students. It's higher than we like, but it is what it is. In high school, it's all over the map. Dr. Freeman is an AP teacher. How many students do you have in AP? 25. That's as big an AP class as we'll get. We can have as many as 35. That often happens in U.S. history, as Dr. Freeman will tell you. But we will have a class as few as 12 in advanced placement and in some elective classes, if that's sufficient answer. Also, on October the 22nd, since I'm standing here, we're having our annual Principal for a Day event in which ordinary citizens such as yourself can come to one of our schools and serve for part of the day as acting principal. If any of you have a burning desire to see what that's like, call me and I will hook you up. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Dr. Flannery. I have served as an acting principal for a day or two, and it's very interesting. All right. The Beer Board met on September the 5th. Commissioner Malone?
Yes, the minutes are on page 13. We, as you mentioned, we did have a meeting and did approve what was essentially a transfer of the permit for Cape Orange Bar and Grill. And then there was another matter about a prior approval that we had just answered really to the constituent of that beer permit holder. Any questions? That's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner Malone. All right, our next item is the Health, Education, and Welfare Committee. Commissioner Edens.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You'll find the minutes of our board meeting from the Health, Education, and Welfare on page 14 of your packet. We have 4 resolutions to bring before the commission tonight, if I'm not mistaken. If there's any questions on the report, I'll be happy to try to answer them. If not, Commissioner Joey Jones will be able to, I'm sure. I put a lot of faith in her. I put a lot of faith in her. If no questions, we'll move on to the resolutions. Seeing none, our first resolution will be Resolution 190902. It's an environmental court administration cleanup of property owned at 3661 Old State Route 34 in Limestone, Tennessee. The request is an amount not to exceed $5,900 in cleanup cost. I bring that to you in form of a motion, Mr. Chairman.
Motion made by Commissioner Edens, seconded by Commissioner McAllister to approve the resolution. Discussion? Question's been called. Madam Clerk, if you'll switch us to the voting screen, please. Go ahead and cast your vote and lock it in. Madam Clerk, if you'll announce the vote, 14 yes, 1 absent, resolution passes. Commissioner Edens.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Next resolution is resolution number 190903, an environmental court administration cleanup of property at the located site is 110 Sherpy Road, Jonesboro, Tennessee. Cleanup cost not to exceed $9,500. I bring that to you in the form of a motion.
Motion made by Commissioner Edens, seconded by Commissioner Ford to approve the resolution. Discussion? Question? Question's been called. Madam Clerk, if you'll switch us to the voting screen, please. Go ahead and cast your vote and lock it in. Madam Clerk, if you'll announce the vote, 14 yes, 1 absent, resolution passes. Commissioner Edens?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Our third resolution is resolution number 190904, an environmental court administration cleanup of property at 1708 Bailey Bridge Road in Limestone, Tennessee. Cleanup cost not to exceed $1,500 on this one. I bring that to you in form of a motion.
Motion made by Commissioner Edens to approve the resolution. Second by Commissioner Wheeler. Discussion?
I've got a question.
Commissioner Harris?
I think I asked this before. We pay for this up front, and then if these people don't reimburse us, we file a lien against their property, and then we can either sell the property, or if they sell the property, we get our money. Isn't that the way this process? So this money all eventually comes back to us, I guess, plus interest, I guess we charge them, or can we, I guess? Okay.
Pretty much following the lien, and hopefully that money's coming back, you know, if it was sold or
I just wanted to make sure I was right. I couldn't
Yeah.
remember how that worked. Thank you.
We've had several come back this year, that liens that have come back, that we done several years ago.
But that is in the event of sale, the county does not force that sale.
So the county just puts a lien on the property, and then once it's sold, we get our money. So we don't do it. It's not like a tax sale where we sell the property. Okay.
If it is forced due to tax sale, though, we would collect it then.
Collect both.
Yes. All right, any further questions or discussion? Question's been called. Madam Clerk, if you'll switch us to the voting screen. Go ahead and cast your vote and lock it in. Madam Clerk, if you'll announce the vote, 14 yes, 1 absent, resolution passes. Commissioner Edens?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before I bring the next resolution and present it or vote on it, I would like to read a statement of disclosure. I'd like it to be known that I am employed by the town of Jonesboro. I am not financially interested, nor do I have any personal beneficial interest, either directly or indirectly, in this interlocal agreement or the Jonesboro proposal of a lease purchase arrangement. My decisions, from my vote to my opinion, back to my vote today, as it always is going to be based on what I believe to be in the very best interest of Washington County as a whole and the constituents of the District 4 that I represent. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Next resolution to consider is Resolution 190905. This resolution reads, as of support of Town of Jonesboro's proposal for a lease purchase arrangement authorizing due diligence, risk, and financial assessment and investigation and negotiation of interlocal agreement and related releases and providing funding in an amount of up to $250,000 for schematic design work. And I bring that to you in the form of a motion, Mr. Chairman.
Motion made to approve the resolution by Commissioner Edens. We have a second? Seconded by Commissioner Williams. Discussion? Commissioner Ford? Oh, okay, just,
Pardon me, Commissioner Ford, I've got to read and make a statement. First, I'm not financially interested, nor do I have any personal beneficial interest, either directly or indirectly, in this interlocal agreement or the Jonesboro proposal of a lease purchase agreement. However, I do represent the town of Jonesboro as the town attorney, and that relationship may lead someone to infer that it affects my vote on the measure before this commission today. Representing District 14, which about half of my district is zoned for this school, the other half is in the city of Johnson City. During the election last year, I ran in a very contested election, although it was very peaceful and a great opportunity to work with my opposing candidate. We both knocked on over 1,000 doors each in both the city and outside the city. It was very clear to me that our constituents wanted something to be done about that school, and they did not want their taxes raised. While I'm not going to be able to vote this evening, I have worked tirelessly to try to bring that to fruition as they requested. With that said, I am disclosing my representation of the town, and although my vote would be based on my independent and impartial analysis of the issue on its merits, my decision today is to recuse myself from voting on this measure. I will participate today only as a representative of the town.
Thank you, Commissioner Wheeler.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
I would also like to make a request of this commission. Once we have a vote on the resolution, however the vote goes, I think it's very prudent, and I'd like to have Mayor Chuck Vest, the mayor of Jonesboro, to come up and maybe share any insights he may have towards the resolution and answer some questions that I probably will not be able to.
all right. Let me go back to Commissioner Ford. He was good to yield his time. So, Commissioner Ford, did you want to go ahead now, or did we want to hear from Mayor Vest ahead of the vote in case we had any questions now?
Just go ahead and listen to
Okay. Was that something that you want to do, Commissioner Edens, is go ahead and hear from Mayor Vest now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Ford. Mayor Vest, if you'll come up to the podium, we'll get all of our housekeeping done.
Sounds good. I got a little handout here for everyone. It's good to have that reminder from Dr. Flannery about principal today. I got the invite from the principal there at Jonesboro Middle School, and I accepted, and this will be the first time I've been in the principal's office for something other than running him back. Looking forward to that. And it wasn't long ago that I got to go to a Chamber of Commerce meeting up in Johnson City, and Mayor Brock was there, and Pete Peterson and Joe, and seemed like the theme was East Tennessee, and our area was a dying breed. Our population was falling, and it's a little bit gloomy. But after hearing Johnson City Schools presentation and seeing that growth up there, and I think Dr. Flannery has experienced growth in Washington County as well, it's good to see East Tennessee, we're not dying, so that's good news. I want to start this by, saying thanks to this commission. Coming before this board is new to me, and seeing what you all do is new, and you all handle some heavy subjects. I think every decision you all make is important to our county, and that's been enlightening to me. So I appreciate what you all do. During this whole process, we've had that presentation mid-August, and after that presentation about this Jonesboro school, we had a lot of encouragement from this board and from our school board, and really from our Jonesboro Board of Mayor and Aldermen. And I'd be amiss if I didn't mention that this project of this Jonesboro School and community project has been a joint effort from our board. A lot of brainstorming going on, and there's been nobody work as hard as Jim Wheeler at this project. So we appreciate everybody's encouragement and work. Our town, we want to build a first-class school for Jonesboro. I had the opportunity to speak on Saturday and got a little emotional talking about it because my kids have gone through Jonesboro Elementary School, have one at Jonesboro Middle School now, and some at David Crockett High School. They've never been more proud of the education they've always received. But I talked about the reason Jonesboro was entering into this discussion is that we have antiquated facilities up there. When I moved back here from Charlotte, years ago, I took my son into the elementary school, proud that he was going to go to the same school as I did. And the principal at that time, Miss Wright, was a fellow student at David Crockett High School for me, so it's kind of proud to see her there as the principal and my son beginning school. But I walked into the school, and I looked up, and I saw this black stuff all over the ceiling. And I don't know what it was made out of, but it didn't look good. And then I was reminded of my time there when the school had no walls, and you could just hear chatter everywhere in the school. And throughout the time my kids were going through the schools there, they grew up and went to the middle school. My son played basketball there, And I don't know, there's probably very few times I didn't go into that gymnasium and smell something emitting from the girls' locker room. It was troubling to think that, Jonesboro had that going on. So that kind of brings us here today. We're looking to do this community project and partner with our county, partner with the school board. We want this to be a collaborative effort, and I think once we get this underway, I think the school board will be more than excited about the facility they're going to be educating our kids in going into the future. This kind of started out of our community having some recreational needs. Our Persimmon Ridge Park is a beautiful park, but it's kind of outlived its time. It's 40, 50 years old almost, and we overuse that field. We have Little League baseball down there. We have adult softball. Our Washington County schools, Jonesboro, because they don't have a recreational facility of their own, they use our fields at Persimmon Ridge at no cost to our school. We're happy to have them down there representing Jonesboro. But we incur the cost gladly there at the town of Jonesboro to take care of the fields, make sure our lights are burning, and so on. But I made a visit down there in March. I played baseball in Washington County, and I think Brian's probably played on those fields, and they used to be great, but they had the huge bare spots out in the outfield, just dangerous to play baseball on, and that was caused by soccer, which is a growing sport. But during the fall, when they were playing soccer, they'd create these bare spots, and we'd sow the grass back in the fall and hope it come back in by spring, but usually it didn't. By the time baseball kicked off again, they were out there playing in mud and getting bad hops. So we started exploring where can we find some land to build soccer fields. And that's really how this joint effort was born. We were looking for a large parcel of land. We knew there was a need for a school in Jonesboro, and they've been using our facilities. And you think, okay, this can be a beneficial union if we can make this happen. So right now, what we're proposing is to build this school, a first-class school for Jonesboro, work with the school board on developing a great educational facility, and we're going to build athletic facilities there and operate those for the school board, again, and our county at no expense to the county. That's one thing the lease payments will help defer. That's the large amount of expenses that we're going to have increasing on our Park and Rec department because we're going to take care of these facilities. So from the beginning, it's been our singular goal of keeping this proposal as clean and clear as possible to expedite its move through the approval process. And I know that can be unnerving, but sometimes delays can have little problems sneak up on you, and we didn't want to get the community involved in something and then see it fall apart. So we've been pushing and pushing. So I apologize to anybody that feels like we've moved too fast. We think it's definitely necessary. But before our school board took up the proposal, as a lot of people wasn't quite sure, how that vote would go, and we were nervous about it. But we worked with Dr. Flannery, his counsel, Mr. Bennett, worked with our legal counsel, and we quickly came up with a solution and answered their needs and their questions. We adjusted the agreement that we had with them to make sure that they were happy. I think that was showing this collaborative spirit that we want to have with this board as well. And I was pleased to get unanimous approval from that school board. So I want to say thank you to Dr. Flannery and the school board for showing the same sense of urgency as we did. We went to the Hugh Committee, and Danny and the committee there asked some great questions. I think Commissioner Jones had a great idea about what happens after the design committee's done, and there's some things that she mentioned that I think that our school board and herself and our town could explore. So looking forward to the opportunity to kind of address her brainstorming idea. It was really good. At that point, we went on to the Budget Committee after getting unanimous approval there at the Hugh, and Mayor Grandy showed support for the plan. Mr. England and Freddie Malone all supported the plan, and it was wonderful to see. After we came out of there, we were excited, and there's one thing that we wanted to make sure that we still did, and that was continue to show the same sense of urgency that we had with the school board, because the future is uncertain. You never know how things can change. And it was good to hear Mayor Grandy at that meeting talk about Baker and Donaldson. I think their law firm said that they were certainly legal in their right to go into this lease agreement with us. And I think Mitch Meredith said this was financially a doable project, and those were some two big things that we wanted to hear. So we were encouraged that Joe sent that out of the Budget Committee and brought that to you. We'll say that urgency and constant focus doesn't mean reckless. It means timely results and progress. And I want to leave here today with that same urgency to just keep this thing moving forward. When you enter into an agreement with a party, you do need to be careful. One thing we said early on in our presentation, it's going to take trust between our three boards to kind of move this along like we need. I think the school board and our board showed that mutual trust in each other to come up with an agreement. I think we can do that same for you all. So this project is doable and is legal. For us to move forward and lock in some important bond rates, we need to have a signed lease. I'm not sure we can leave here today with that, but we need to leave here today, hopefully, with a plan to get that lease signed. So we ask that you expedite legal reviews and cooperate with our team to move this approval forward for support of the project and set a date for final approval of this collaborative lease. We want to hear what any changes that you might have, and we will work as quick as we can to get this expedited. And if you got any questions for me, I'd be happy to answer them. Very good, thank you.
Mayor, I know our resolution has the $250,000 amount in it, and then your letter seems to maybe change that.
Yeah, Mayor Grandy had a very generous, what you're speaking out is the letter I handed out, had a very generous offer of $250,000 of seed money up front. And we respectively want to go back to the original agreement, which is less than that. We think the amount that we requested is sufficient, and if that saves us some money, then that's a plus for all of us. So in your resolution, I'd like to see that changed back to the original agreement, and let's set a date to get this lease signed.
So just point of clarification, that original was $100,000?
Annually. Yes.
So that would be an amendment to the resolution we have here. Is that this letter? Yeah, I think we did amend the term 50 on all that. Is the 100 is?
The 100 would be in the lease document, isn't that correct, Mayor?
That is correct. Thank you. Yes. Yeah.
At this point in time, one of the lease agreements came to us last Thursday afternoon, late in the day, and the attorneys are reviewing that now. It's changed from the original agreement. And the other, Exhibit B, we have not yet received, so we actually don't have anything in front of us to work with tonight. Yes, sir. From their attorneys, it came modified from the original lease that was in the proposal, the draft lease that was in the proposal, Exhibit A. Exhibit B, we've not yet received.
This question is part of the board mayors. Can I ask, I know we've got attorneys, council attorneys, you're saying you just received Thursday.
And still waiting on other things. You're talking about a date that we need to hammer down. maybe one of the lawyers needs to answer this. I'm just concerned about what that date would be and what we can do, both parties, to reach that date. Is it feasible? What does that date need to be, and can we get there, and how are we going to go about getting there?
If you don't mind, I'm going to let Commissioner Wheeler, our town attorney, address that. He's been working on this closely with our lawyers, and he knows the timelines of what we've sent and when it's been worked on.
Sure, thank you.
The, both bond counsel that the town is working with and the consultant that we've been, both our financial advisor, actually three, and the consultant that we're looking at using to expedite, we're going to now have to expedite the rural development application, have indicated we needed originally 3 months. We regrouped this past week, and they think they can get it in a month and a half, but we need to do that by October 15th. The reason for that is that rural development will lock in an interest rate on October 1st. That makes this work. We know what that interest rate's going to be. That interest rate is locked for a quarter. It will not change. Even if the bond market fluctuates and that rate goes up, we can still get that rate if we get the application in and get it approved by December 31st. If we don't do that, then we're subject to the next interest rate or bond market rate change, okay? And so that's where and we've been trying to communicate that the urgency of this throughout that. Exhibit B is actually still exactly the same as the one that was in the packet that each of you received August 15th. It has not been changed one iota, and that has been communicated. And that was provided as late as last Thursday when Knoxville Council indicated they didn't have it. Our Knoxville Council sent it over to them. Whether they had it or not, I don't know, but it's the same as what was in the August 15th packet. What was sent out Thursday by our Knoxville Council to the county's Knoxville Council was the bond councils. Bond council always gets involved in these steps. Our Knoxville Council had discussed with the county's Knoxville Council that bond council would have a lot to add of things they want to protect the lender. They have nothing to do with the day-to-day operation of the lease. That's why we were able, with the school board's lawyer, to go ahead and sit down and work face-to-face or over the phone and work through all of the terms of the leases. And he has been through every line of the lease because I went through it with him. That's the school board's attorney. So what we did when we realized we were not going to get input from the county this week from legal, we went ahead and had bond counsel do their thing. So what we sent Thursday was bond counsel's changes only. So those changes are there, and that is correct. They were delivered Thursday. We originally wanted to have the county's input first, and for all of that to go to bond counsel, but that was not going to happen, so we sent it on to bond counsel. So it is factually correct that there was a change Thursday. I would suggest it did not change the overall structure of the lease. It is still the same type of lease. It simply has bond counsel comments in it. Bond counsel will need to look at it again. That's an expense the town will incur. Glad to incur it. But when we make changes with the county's counsel, we'll go back through bond counsel. But that will not take more than a day or two. They will do that very quickly, just as the review. The leases were put together a week before the presentation. This is not something, the leases are not part of what's been worked on for 5 months. We hired separate counsel to draft those leases for the town. They did that about a week before the August 15th proposal. We sat down with the school board's attorney 3 days before the presentation to the school board and worked through all their issues, made changes, brought the drafts to most of the changes in that were the interlocal agreement. But they did have some questions on the lease, which we just addressed. We didn't have to make any changes to it. I'm sorry that's long-winded, but I want to make sure you understand exactly where we are. And I have been very much involved in all of those discussions as the town's attorney.
Our preference was to get, feedback from the county's attorneys earlier, before our bond counsel, I think, made their changes, but when we didn't receive that, we just went ahead and moved on, just try to keep this project moving.
you, ask Commissioner Carriger if I consider him an expert on this, but I know there's talk of interest rates coming down, but generally when interest rates come down, don't bond rates have a tendency to go up?
Well, right now, in the month of August, I think it was $8.5 billion worth of municipal debt refinanced because it was lower rates. Right now, a 20-year bond is about 3.8%. And, you know, we don't know what the Fed's going to do, but there's a lot of things that affect interest rates. And, you know, right now, interest rates are pretty low. And, you know, I'm not an expert at forecasting what interest rates are going to do.
But I know you know the makeup. Am I correct in saying normally when interest rates go down, bond rates tend to go
Well,
up?
it just depends on the whole market, because you've got some bonds over in Europe that are negative. Can you imagine you give a guy $1,000 in 20 years, he gives you $900 back?
It'd be nice, wouldn't it?
Well, it would be. I would think it's all that way, but, you know, there's,
I know they've got a good rate. From what I hear, I hate for us to do anything to
Well,
prolong. If we're going to do this project, do it while the
devil's in the
you know.
details, and I've got a lot of questions on the financing. And I don't want to prolong this because I think, you know, this is something that's needed, and I agree with Mayor Vest that a collaborative effort is needed. But I hope this commission would know that we represent all the children. I don't care where they are. They are our children, and we, I think, have an obligation to help the kids that are in the city. They've got needs coming up, and I don't think it's fair, would be fair for us as a commission to pick favorites. I think they're all our children. We need to be concerned about all of their education. And, you know, with that in mind, I'm going to vote for the resolution, but the devil's going to be in the details with the financing. I've got a lot of questions on that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Commissioner.
Well, and if I may, certainly Mr. Carriger is the expert, but some of what the Federal Reserve is trying to do, they're trying to impact the shorter end of the curve, the shorter term interest rate, because the yield curve has been so flat and even inverted for a while. So some of what they're trying to impact is the shorter term interest rates by lowering the Fed funds rate, which impacts crime, et cetera. The longer end of the curve, U.S. Treasuries have actually moved up. 2 weeks ago, they jumped about 30, 35, the longer end, 10-year and longer jumped, you know, 0.35 or 0.4% in 1 week. Now, it's edged off a little bit, but they're having the impact they want, and that longer-term rates, which this is going to be at least 20-year financing, longer-term rates are trending upward. And I think that feeds with what part of what Mayor Vest is saying.
Absolutely, appreciate you clarifying that.
Is some of, is of this.
So I think it's argued for, you know, looking at rates currently as they are, you know, for a while we had Fed funds yielding higher than a 10-year bond. It doesn't make sense to me. Overnight rate is more than a 10-year obligation. So it's a complicated issue. We'll get into that when we start talking about leasing finance.
There's one thing we don't have control over, and that's the bond rates. That's why, with, like you said, they're attractive right now. We're hoping to lock those in as soon as we can. And I appreciate your feedback on that. And really, the lease that we put together, it's pretty well a normal commercial lease. We don't think there's going to be anything in there that can't be looked at in just a few days, as the school board did. So that's why we do think we can safely move forward at a good pace. And I agree with Commissioner Carriger. We care about all the kids in Washington County. That includes Johnson City, and that includes the kids in Westview and South Central and everywhere that have needs. Our feeling is right now we have the opportunity to take care of one major need where it's unhealthy, and once we resolve this issue, we can solve all the other issues we have out there one at a time.
I agree. One point I'd like to make is, in my mind, this lease we're talking about is going to show up on our balance sheet as a long-term debt. And I think the law is pretty specific that when you got a long-term debt, 48% needs to be shared with the city. Just my humble opinion.
Yeah, it's we've had legal opinions that differ, but that's certainly, we think that every kid here deserves every penny we can afford, but that's something that our team has researched over and over again, and I think if we had four opinions that say otherwise. Yes, Ms. Jones?
Mayor, how have you been communicating? Like, sounds like there's new information and new processes kind of being moved forward day to day. And Mr. Wheeler, you just kind of gave some examples just in the last week. What's the process for communicating with our mayor and attorney so that you have a good, I mean, this is setting, the way that you all interact is setting the precedent for 20 more years of all of us interacting around a relationship to pay and get things done.
Right.
How have you been doing that, and what are your plans for continuing forward?
Well, we probably were spoiled by how well the school board worked with our attorneys. They worked diligently. They were excited to do it. I think they wanted to see this project succeed, but our legal team and Jim been intimately involved, communicated every day with them just to keep moving it along via email and phone calls. And there's many nights that, Jim would be calling me after 11 o'clock and we'd be discussing things. So him and Matt Grossman, our legal advisor, worked diligently on this. And that's what we're hoping happens, going forward.
Sounds like that was your process for the school board. So similar kind of informal communication, email, phone calls.
Right. Jim can probably address it. Once the school board, did their part, we were hopefully to encourage the county to get their legal advisors, and I think they did. And I think our legal team reached out to them as early as they possibly could. And Jim can correct me, but it didn't come back quite as fast as it did with the school board.
Sure. So it just takes a bit longer, and I'm just trying to clarify so that I know the communication is the best that it can be between the folks that are handling the minute-to-minute information, but also that filters down to the rest of us. And I don't know, I mean, I feel like almost all of us had to have called Allison in the last week to get updated, which is a sort of poor strategy for keeping 15 people up to speed. But in the process of what maybe seems a little slow, all the rest of us, I think, are learning as much as we can and vetting this project in the context of all the other things that county citizens are asking for right now.
Yeah.
And so it's a little bit about the legal and budget and banks and stuff, but it's also about, like, wow, what are the implications for this in the context of all the other things we need to do as a governing body. And I hope we can keep going in a way that is positive, and if the communication isn't working well, you let us know so we do a better job. And again, like, we probably need to think through how all of us are staying up to speed on new information, and it seems like this is new, this whole project is new,
Yeah.
and all the pieces and parts are new, but also the process is not very well worked out.
Well, it is something that hasn't been done before, but
Right.
I think as I said earlier, we wanted to keep this somewhat clean and clear, so when that lease comes to you, you'll see it as somewhat standard, and shouldn't be anything that can't be negotiated with these attorneys that we've hired, and then the trust that we've all developed with each other. I think we all got each other's backs, and that includes Johnson City. We want to see them. Johnson City is a wonderful city up there. That's where I go to enjoy myself, and they've got growing enrollment. That's because they've got people moving into their area, and for Jonesboro, my responsibility is to turn this town over to somebody else with a growing population, not a dying town, and that's why having a school that's comparable to the surrounding schools is of the utmost importance. We can't be the worst in the area. We've got to be the best to lift everybody.
If I could address the communication issue for just a moment, and I'm going to actually enjoy doing this because I get to wear my legal hat and not be part of you all for a minute. And, the communication between the legal folks has been fine. Matt Grossman, our attorney in Knoxville, discussed it I thought it was Friday, but it was last Thursday, with Culver Schmidt, who's representing the county dealing with the lease. Culver indicated that he didn't think, he at least said he didn't have the lease. So they immediately got on the phone, got permission, got him sent to him. They conferred with him again this week. Hey, are you ready? Can we talk yet? And one day this week, and I couldn't tell you which, or I guess one day last week, so this was the week before that he'd said that. Last week he indicated they needed to wait until we acted. Now, and then they would be back in touch with him. So there's not been a lot of communication, but what has been very quick, open, and expedient. The thing I think that points out is, had the commission known 2 weeks ago that they couldn't move on even looking at the language in these leases, whether we're going to do this or not is a commission discussion, not a legal discussion, really. But then we could have had a call commission meeting and told them to move forward on discussing the leases. But we didn't know that. So I would suggest that internal communications may need to, and I think maybe that's what you're getting at, but they may need to be addressed. But I think you do have the mayor and our county attorney have set up a really good, they've got good counsel, they got them where they need to be, they're ready to roll. It's just a matter of, there was apparently some miscommunication about when that could be done. And I did ask the chairman if he was aware of that to call a meeting, and he had not been, so that can be improved.
It happened early on, it's running now, and it feels like the process is.
I think so. I think, what Jonesboro's asking tonight is for this commission to make some decisions about, setting a timetable and getting this thing, giving a directive that this thing needs to move. We need to get, again, there's whether some of the other questions that have been raised tonight need to be dealt with, and there needs to be some decision about how those are going to be dealt with. But things need to get moving on the legal end.
Commissioner McAllister?
Again, just kind of point of clarification, and just make sure, if this resolution passes tonight, what's this commission's next step? Is it next month that we come back, the lease? Is that our next step? Will that delay it, or what is our next step?
Well, I'll let Jim speak to this as well, but ideally for the town, the sooner the better, so we can lock in the attractive bond rates now. But I know you have requirements you have to follow. I'm not sure if that's 7 days, 10 days, but anything. I don't see why we can't come to a resolution within 2 weeks, but I'll let Jim speak to that.
If we don't, then we have to relook at how we do this deal, because Jonesboro can't sign. They have to give the final say on documents. They send them out, drafts, to everybody to go through. But the other reason for that is because when they sign them, at least the way they are right now, they're signing them saying, we've got time to get this interest rate locked in. If we push this beyond the 15th of this month, then, their counsel will likely be advising them that they may have to restructure this to where, because if that rate goes up and if we don't get it locked in, Mitch gave the budget committee a spreadsheet that showed if this thing increases by 1%, then it's not doable under the current monies that we have available, the county has available. So that's not the town saying we can't do it, because the town could say, okay, we'll pass that higher rate on to the county. That's your county, budget director saying, this won't work if we let that happen. And what we're saying is, we got to get this interest rate locked in. So our timetable, from the town's perspective was this meeting, and now, once we saw, the resolution, we regrouped and we're looking at the 15th. If we go beyond that, something has to change, and it could be that we have to come back and say we can't do this project because the rate's gone up. If it goes up more than that percent, I would say we're not doing this project.
So, the way I understand it, the question,
Commissioner Harris, just hang on just a second. I have Commissioner Williams. She had requested to speak, and then I'll come right back to you. Commissioner Williams?
If we have a 7-day time frame to call a meeting, can we call it to meet next Monday night with documents ready to sign?
It would be required 7-day notice on that lease.
Well, why can't the 11 o'clock news count tonight.
I will have to defer to our attorney on that one. Ms. Wilkinson, what would be our earliest meeting date?
Well, just going back, if I may, to the rule itself, there is a 7-day notice for contracts in excess of 5 years. And I believe that the details of the lease, I'm pulling the rule in front of me, just bear with me. I preference to read from the book. Yeah, it requires that such contract, lease, or lease purchase agreement will be considered by the governing body at least 7 days prior to the date for such meeting. So it should identify the real property to be considered, the term or terms of such contract, lease or lease purchase agreement, and the contracting party. So under the strict construction of this rule, it suggests that you should have that lease as part of your notice so that people have the opportunity to see those terms. So since the lease isn't here today, Commissioner Williams and others, you probably want to carve in some time for that lease to be actually negotiated with these timelines that have been set out. And maybe work backwards from that rather than jumping from each day with hope. That might be helpful for you.
So you would have to publish the lease, is that, or the terms of the lease?
Under the rule.
So you couldn't actually publish the notice until you had the terms of the lease? Commissioner Harris, I think you were next to speak.
That was part of my question. That was a great question, because that's something I've been interested in. But, Commissioner Willard representing Jonesboro, we have our attorney here. When feasibly, you said a couple days a minute ago, for what's got to be worked out in this lease. And is that what you're seeing as well, County Attorney, on working out whatever issues you have on the lease? I mean, what are you hearing from our council?
Well, I'm glad you asked. Thank you. So Baker Donaldson has practice areas that include the ability to address complex contracts, public finance issues, as well as education law. So they're able to, with the team that they put in place, address all aspects of the legal and financial risk to the county. And so it has been very, I think, I'm not going to say commissioner, I'm going to say Counselor Wheeler in this instance. I believe we've had the good working relationship. I was at his office for a conference call with the town of Jonesboro's lawyers and over the phone, and that was when I was introduced to the Board of Education's lawyer, Mr. Bennett, who has also, let us know the issues that they had. So I hope it provides some comfort to y'all as commissioners that Baker Donaldson has reviewed those leases. I hear some confusion about that. I know because, and I don't want to provide any confidential information because they are counsel to the county, but they have the leases and they were provided those leases as they were presented August 15th. So Baker Donaldson as a firm has built the framework with which to negotiate from whatever point of view this commission views as their concern. They're ready to paper the deal that the county would want to enter into. So I hope that provides some comfort. The lawyers, the commissioners that I've spoken to, I've tried to say that they're busy, Baker Donaldson is busy working in the background, ready to move forward. So I did see the email that indicated they were standing by to make sure that this commission, the proposal is what this commission wants to do before they negotiate on behalf of the county. So they're standing by. Does that answer your question? I feel like I tried to give you a lot of information and I may have been clunky.
A lot of information, I appreciate that. I guess basically I was asking, how close are they to sending us this final draft of what they think the lease is, so at that point we can see it and know to advertise. We got to advertise for 7 days, is that correct?
Understood.
So I mean, what do you think the timeframe out on
Actually, I
that?
have it, I think that it's, October 1st would be very ambitious. I think that's a few days from now, today's the 23rd. So, but I've been working with Baker Donaldson to communicate the urgency, which they've understood from the front end. I think that it might be prudent to set some sort of date, and then maybe as a commission, you want to hear their comments. They've also got consultants addressing the financial impact. Maybe you have questions about that. So they're standing by, ready to address whatever this commission wants to have, and they have their own comments to be able to negotiate. I believe that there's been a lawyer for Jonesboro on a family vacation, so they spoke before he left. So I think everyone is in place today. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Counselor.
Yes, and we've had an attorney available. We're working with a large firm too.
Right.
They've got more than one doing everything, and we've had somebody available all week while he was gone. That was not an issue.
Well, and I meant to say that the gentleman who's on point, I know he's back. That's what I was trying to say. I didn't mean to suggest that he was not available. So to answer your question, I think that they're poised and ready with their questions about the construction of the terms to negotiate directly with counsel for Jonesboro, if that's the will of this body. If that's what you would want them to do, they're ready to do it. Did I come closer, Commissioner Harris?
And you think they can get that done by October 1st, is that what I heard? And then they could set their meeting.
Isn't that Monday? I think that, I wouldn't want to hamstring them to a date certain. Maybe they could do it faster, but I know that once they hear the will of this board, they've already begun their review, and they've worked with, counsel for Jonesboro in the past, and my understanding is that these are professionals with a long-standing professional relationship, and will do whatever they need to do to paper the deal that this commission would want to have, and present to you any questions that you might have. They'd be happy to present your answers.
Allison, so you're saying not to be hopeful for the first. So if it was like the 7th and you had to advertise for 7 days to bring you to the 15th, that would be a...
I think that's, that could happen. I think the most important thing is to instruct counsel for the county if you'd like to have this proposal. I think that, and what you'd like it to look like, can be details that we can work on with respect to communication, how best to keep you advised in real time, how best to communicate your particular concerns, and how best to put the commission together to hear any legal or financial risk assessments that you might want to vet so that you can make your decision. So they're standing by and they're ready to work. So, and they are working now and will continue to do so. So put 7 days notice after you have those terms.
Commissioner Malone, I think you were next on my list.
Thank you. And I appreciate Commissioner Williams' enthusiasm, but I obviously want there to be adequate, due diligence, and that might be tough, given the time constraints. And I may have an idea there, but one thing that comes to mind, and as part of this process, certainly the concept of education funding is something, I still struggle with.
Yes.
I don't want to spend $250,000 if it's not required. So part of me says we need to amend the resolution to remove that section.
Yes.
Because if the $100,000 is set forth in the leases, I beat you to the punch. Well, it sounds like Commissioner Ford may have a motion.
Commissioner Tester, did you want to speak? I'll cut all the mics off, Commissioner Ford, and allow you to speak. How's that?
I appreciate you, Mayor. Mr. Chairman, I think I can remember what I was wanting to ask. The packet that I received from Jonesboro, $32 million, we're already talking about a change, the $250,000, and we're not even signed the agreement yet. They didn't, he answered my question by giving out this letter tonight about the $250,000. But I'm all for moving this thing forward, but I'm not for moving this thing forward with this in the resolution of $250,000. I'd like to propose an amendment that we pull that out tonight, out of this resolution.
Do we have a second to that amendment? Seconded by Commissioner Malone to remove the $250,000 from the resolution.
I think there's a lot of T's that needs to be crossed, a lot of I's that need to be dotted before we get to the final episode of this. But I think that these folks that sit here tonight for all this time, they sit for over 3 years, being very patient. They got the patience of Job. And I appreciate and I love every one of them for being patient. I just think that we need to decide tonight. I'm very much in favor of the concept. I think we need, and I'm going to vote in favor of it if we can get this amended out of $250,000. So.
All right. Well, speaking of that, while we have that on amendment on the floor to remove the $250,000, what line is that, Commissioner Tester? Section 2 from the resolution. Before I ask for any further discussion, Commissioner Tester, did you have something you would want to add since you did have your hand up?
No, sir.
Okay. So I think the first thing we need to do to move this on just a little bit is go ahead and vote on this amendment. Commissioner McAllister.
If you look on the resolution, on the very bottom, on page 38, it says, whereas based on the present project, is estimated the cost will exceed $250,000. If you look at that, if everybody will look at that, I think that probably needs to be deleted out of the resolution too, Commissioner Ford. I think that whereas right there on the very bottom, page 38, I think that probably needs to be deleted.
I think you're right.
All the way down to.
Yeah. And then just section 2. So, whereas.
There.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
All right, Commissioner Tester.
Oh, I was just gonna say, we're talking about the last whereas on page 38, and basically it would go down to right below the bullet, or the number 2, 1 and 2. They're on the top of page 39. And then the last whereas about the budget committee meeting would stay in. And then section 2, down in the be it resolved part would be amended out also.
Right.
Right. Madam Clerk, you got all that? All right. She says she's got it all.
Chairman, may I be excused?
Mayor, I may need you here in a minute.
We're just voting on the.
Don't go far. We're going to let you sit down for just a minute.
all these talks about lawyers, you know, they get paid by the hour, and I don't have the budget that Mayor Brock has.
We're going to let you sit down just a minute,
Okay.
but, or we'll get you a stool, either one.
I'm fine. Make sure I wasn't in the way.
All right. So we know that we are taking out the amendment, and we'll be taking out the $250,000 out of the resolution. Is there any further discussion about that item?
Well, we're actually replacing it, right?
No.
Just taking it out.
Taking that out, taking it out.
That's just removing it completely,
Right.
except for the item, the part about the budget meeting.
Call for question.
Now, who was my second? Commissioner Malone, right? Okay. All right. All right, question's been called for. Madam Clerk, if you'll switch us to the voting screen. We were just voting on the amendment right now. That's all. Madam Clerk, if you'll announce the vote. 13 yes, 1 absent, and 1 abstain. The resolution passes.
Thank you.
All right, so we are back to the amendment, or back to the resolution as amended. Do we have any discussion? Commissioner Malone?
I think back to the discussion about the timing and the timetable, and I know we've already whittled on this resolution some, but I might propose an additional amendment that we set a timetable. Now, I know Commissioner Wheeler, in his role as town attorney, said October 15th. I'm wondering if October the 17th, that gives us a couple extra days of due diligence. That's a Thursday, and perhaps Commissioner Wheeler could speak to that, but I think I would like to amend that we set a timetable for the due diligence period and a deadline, and go ahead and leave it to the chair's discretion to set a commission meeting no later, a special call commission meeting no later than Thursday, October the 17th. And all the necessary notices and publishings be done appropriately to have a meeting no later than. I'm not setting a specific date, but no later than Thursday, October 17th. And I think there may be value, and we can include it in the amendment or not, but I think there may be value to having the county's external legal counsel here that night for specific questions. So I will offer that in the form of a motion.
So that's October the 17th.
I'm not setting that as a specific date, but that
No later.
a deadline for the due diligence period. That gives us a good 3.5 weeks.
Second by Commissioner Harris. Commissioner Carriger, I think you are first to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would just caution this committee. Years ago, a young banker was advised by Carl A. Jones down at the paper to make haste warily. And I would be cautious of, I think our instructions, let's get this done as quickly as we can. I think we may cause some unintended consequences if we put a date on ourselves. Because when you're dealing with lawyers, they think 30 days is the speed of light. So that's my only nervousness about it. I think our instructions, we want to get this thing done ASAP, and I'm just afraid if we put a date on ourselves, what happens if we go past that date? And that's my only concern, because I share everybody's concern. Let's get this thing, let's get rolling on it and come to a conclusion.
But one thing we need to be aware of, if we don't have that lease and we're not able to publish that lease, we won't have a meeting by then if we don't have that lease within that 7-day period to publish. So just bringing that to your attention.
Echoing Commissioner Carriger's comments, though, the only people that work slower than attorneys sometimes, no offense to our new county attorney, is government. And I just worry that if we don't put a date out there, that it will drag on. And so that's my thought process. And I thought I heard Commissioner Wheeler say, well, and I certainly heard Mayor Vest say time was of the essence, and I know I heard Commissioner Wheeler say the 15th. I'm stretching it a few more days for due diligence, and it gives us a few more days to set a meeting time.
And if I might say again, I think when we get all these attorneys jumping into this lease, it is a pretty clean lease. And I don't think we're going to have anything pop up that's going to delay things too much. And I think October 17th, no later than that's a certainly doable date.
All right, so we have a motion and second for the 17th. Commissioner Tester?
Mr. Chairman, I have a question for our attorney. Is the public notice for a workshop less than public notice for a meeting where we have to vote?
You'll remember that with a workshop, you would not be taking action.
Right.
And I would think that you as commissioners would benefit from the lease so that you can really move forward and assess that.
Reason for my question, I'm just wondering, based off of some of the earlier conversations about communication and so forth, and the complication of all of this deal, if it might make sense for us to have a workshop really fast between now and a meeting when we vote.
The 17th, is that what you're saying?
Between now and when we
Between now
vote,
and the
to
17th.
give the commission a chance to,
What would it be, a 5-day notice on the workshop?
I think that's correct, that would be correct, 5 days.
5 days.
just throwing it out there, see how, if any of my colleagues want to do that or not, but.
You know,
Well, when we have that information back, I would gladly call a workshop for us. I mean, if that's what the will of the body would be. Commissioner Tester, or Commissioner Williams?
We're not doing anything in concrete by taking a positive vote. We're just addressing our support at the top of the resolution, and down here it says, Washington County finds the Jonesboro proposal worthy of careful consideration. And that's where we need to be to get the leases back, and then you make the decision that's more definite.
Amen. Thank you, Commissioner Williams. So we have a motion and second on our October 17th date. Any further discussion on that? Now we're adding this into the resolution, is that correct?
That was my intent, yes.
Okay. Any further discussion?
Call the question.
We're going to vote on this amendment. You will be amending this date into the resolution. The question's been called. Madam Clerk, if you'll switch us to the voting screen, please. Go ahead and cast your vote and lock it in. Madam Clerk, if you'll announce the vote, 12 yes, 1 no, 1 abstained, and 1 absent. The resolution passes, or the amendment passes. Okay, so we are back to the resolution as amended. Any further consideration for amendments? Question's been called. We'll be voting on the resolution as amended. Madam Clerk, if you'll switch us to the voting screen, the question's been called. Go ahead and cast your vote and lock it in. Madam Clerk, if you'll announce the vote, 13 yes, 1 abstained, and 1 absent, and the resolution passes as amended. Okay, Mayor.
Thank you all for all of that, and those motions were wonderful, and it's almost like a game show being up there watching this board.
It is, isn't it? We could get you one of those for Jonesboro now.
Not Family Feud.
Oh, okay. Mayor, thank you for hanging with us tonight and staying up here and answering all these questions. We appreciate you. All right. Commissioner Jones?
I want to just come back to the point that Commissioner Tester was making about just some sort of strategy for getting information to all of us. I know that when I hear that the leases have been vetted, I'll be calling our wonderful attorney. Many of you will. She'll repeat the same thing 15 times. I don't know, 5 times. I don't know how many of us will call. I don't know if that's a great use of her time, and the opportunity to ask those questions and hear others' questions that I might not think of is really important to me, not only for understanding 2 30 or 40-page leases, but also, I mean, I heard the Budget Committee discussions and the implications of this project for other expenses in the county, but I'd kind of like to hear it again, honestly. Like, I couldn't hear that more times and still want to hear it. So those are 2 major issues that I personally will end up knocking on people's doors about if we don't have a meeting. And I'm just thinking others would want to know those things, and just saying, I know you all know that I would, it would be helpful if we had some sort of.
If we could get the leases back soon enough, I feel like that you know, we could call that workshop in time. You know, once you have the leases back, you're going to be able to advertise your 17th meeting. You know, if you want to have the workshop 5 days before then, you could. You know, or maybe our county attorney could send us all a update as to where we're at on that. It might be easier just to go ahead and email us all something at one time than all of us call her in a different 30 minutes of her day. You know, I don't know. I can't do that because the Sunshine Law would prevent me from doing that. Commissioner Tester?
I was just gonna say, I think the earlier the better, based off of setting the date of the 17th, because there may be feedback from that workshop that might affect something before you publish it.
Right.
Maybe.
All right. Commissioner Edens?
I don't think I have to ask this. I'm going to ask it anyway. I would like to ask our attorney and our mayor.
To do everything possible to get this done as fast as humanly possible and back in our hands, because that gives us that much more time for a workshop and for a 7-day notice of a meeting to have these leases back. I'd like somebody to really be after our attorney firm in Knoxville to get us the paperwork of the leases back as soon as possible. If they came back tomorrow, we'd have that many more days to get a workshop scheduled, to vet this out that much more, and to have that 7-day notice time frame. So, I mean, we could change that date of the 17th if we got these leases back sooner. So I would like them to be strongly encouraged to get these back as soon as possible. That just benefits us in a time frame situation.
We will. I know that there's been a lot of work going on with our attorney, and I know that Jonesboro has worked very hard to get all these attorneys together to come up with a solution to these leases. Mayor, you were standing. Did you have something to add to this lease conversation?
As a matter of fact, I do.
I figured you might.
Yep. So what you, as a commissioner, are going to be faced with is making a major financial decision for the county, as you know. The way the leases are structured, we were told by our attorneys at the very beginning, will very much influence whether or not we could easily or successfully defend a challenge to the sharing arrangement. So it's absolutely critical. Now that we have the ability to go and begin some negotiations, we'll be able to begin to put this stuff together and come up with some lease structure. What I would like for this group to do is to go ahead and consider this workshop. I think it's really important. We'll bring these attorneys here that have been working on this for the last week or 10 days. We'll bring into you some independent financial analysis to verify and validate some of the things that Mitch has put together for us on an independent basis. We'll bring you in some information from our bond counsel on how the bonds potentially need to be structured, all in an effort to put us in the best possible position to defend ourselves against what is likely to be a challenge to the sharing. So if we do this correctly and we position ourselves in a way to successfully defend, then we'll save the taxpayers a lot of money. If we blow our way through this and get some of it wrong, or if we miss something, it's going to cost the taxpayers a significant amount of money, and much more so than if we if we did this project on our own. The project, this is we're really excited about the opportunity here. I mean, this is a very unique situation, but the fact that it is a unique situation, should strike you as, why has this never been tried before? Well, that's because it's not a simple project, and it's very complex. As much as we'd like to believe it's just a couple of documents and a simple lease, in this case, that's just not actually factual. It's how it's structured. We just have to do the very best we can to get it right. And there is no model out there. So what you'll be presented with at the workshop, in my vision, is expert folks who've been working on this to help guide us through the process. We've never been told that we're out of bounds legally, but we've always been told that there's a risk. And so what you'll be provided with is some risk analysis, maybe some options, but certainly things to consider as you make a very important decision for the future of the finances of Washington County. And it's my responsibility as CFO of Washington County to provide you with the very best information that I possibly can in order for you to make this very important decision. We want this school in Jonesboro. We desperately want this school in Jonesboro. Those kids in Jonesboro have waited long enough for our Board of Education and so forth to get us a plan that we could successfully move forward with. And, we funded this thing, some of us did at least, 4 years ago. And it shouldn't have taken anywhere close to this long to get to this point. But, we're at a point now where we're going into a structure that's new, it's never been tested, and it is, in my opinion, your responsibility to get all the facts so that you can make the best possible decision for the citizens of Washington County. That's what we intend to do. So we'll put this workshop together, and we can structure it. We can have the leases ready. And I think we'll do this, we need to do this in time to meet Commissioner Wheeler's concerns about interest rates. I'm not an expert on interest rates, but we do know, they move around, and there's no prediction as to whether they're going to be going up in this long-term, bond market, or whether they're going to go down more. It's just where you hit. The last time we did bonds, we crushed it. We hit it on the exact day, and we saved millions of dollars. But, that was just a good stroke, and we got there at the right time. And we would hope to do that again. But as you know, we are not going to be doing the bonds as a county, so we don't make that call. So this complicated process needs your careful consideration, and when we peg the date on that workshop, it will be crucial that everyone's there to get this information. So That's sort of where my vision is of it tonight. Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you, Mayor. While we're on this subject and we're getting ready to move off into executive session, Mr. Peterson, or did you have, or Mayor Brock, did you have anything that you wanted to add to our conversation tonight? I appreciate you all being here. I do. All right. Was there anything else on the health, education, and welfare report, Commissioner?
There is nothing else in our report, that's all the resolution we have, there's no questions.
All right. All right. We will move this time into our executive session with our update on litigation. That will be in the room here behind me. And our attorney will meet us back there. All right. Major, thank you for opening the door and getting us unlocked.